We have Grandmaster Zhu Jiner coming to her game. She is world number 4 and one of the strongest young female players in the world of chess right now. And there she is. She has many fans waiting for her on the 5th round of Norway Chess. It's a weekend, and this is what a big chess tournament brings to your city. It brings this ability for the young talents to meet the best players in the world, get inspired by them, and such a moment has much more meaning often than hours and hours of practice. I mean, you can do both, but still, this is such an integral part. You can see they have t-shirts there, and there you see Divya Deshmukh entering in, and this kid is making everyone sign their t-shirts. And Divya is like, I'm late to the game. She does want to sign for everyone, but well, she has to be also mindful of the upcoming battle that she has with Zhu Jiner. Now, Zhu Jiner and Divya have some kind of rivalry building between them. While Divya knocked her out from the FIDE World Cup 2025, Zhu Jiner did beat her at the FIDE Candidates in one of the games, and one was a draw. I overall think that both of them are kind of roughly similar strength but very different kind of players. I feel Zhu Jiner is definitely getting a lot more opportunities recently. She played in the Sigmund tournament, and just to tell you how much Magnus believes in her strength, when Magnus was asked before the tournament who will win this year's Norway women's chess, he mentioned Zhu Jiner. Divya comes to the board. She is playing this tournament excellently. She is currently in the second position behind Bibisara Asaubayeva, and a win here would mean a lot to her. Okay, the players are now ready. 2 hours each with 10-second increment after move 40. And off we go. A handshake, and let's begin. Zhu Jiner with the white pieces opens with pawn to d4. And Divya plays d5. We have d4, d5. c4 played the queen's gambit. And now queen's gambit is declined with e6. Knight to c3. And knight comes out to f6. Zhu Jiner takes on d5. C takes d5. E takes d5. And bishop goes to g5, pinning the knight, threatening to take here and pick up the pawn in the center. Divya protects the pawn. And now e3 played. Generally, you want to get your bishop out to f5, but that is met with queen f3. So first bishop e7. Now with the plan to get the bishop to f5, but bishop d3 stops it in its tracks. Divya goes knight bd7, bringing her knight out. And queen c2 is a normal standard move, but Zhu Jiner goes knight to f3. They often say that keeping the knight on g1 is quite practical because you can also bring it to e2. And now black, instead of castling, goes knight to f8. Bishop goes to h4. And interesting move because Zhu Jiner wants to come to g3, put pressure here. Divya plays knight to h5. And bishop takes on e7. You go queen takes e7. And this knight is now threatening to come to f4 to attack the bishop and the pawn. So white castles here. And a good move is knight g6. And then black also castles. Goes pawn to g6. And this is not a good move by Divya because I guess her plan is knight g7 and bishop f5. But what she seems to have underestimated is this central pawn break which Zhu Jiner goes for. Let's go. Pawn to e4, opening up the e file against the black king. This is big trouble for Divya if she doesn't play well. Takes. Bishop takes. And that's the point. You're pushing d5 here. That is very dangerous. Knight f6. And look at this possibility that Zhu Jiner has. Takes, takes and d5. Threatening rook e1. It's a very powerful move. And if you take, I take, and you take, and I take, and this rook is hanging, and then rook e1, and then queen e5, and this is hanging. It's crazy. She goes d5, which is also a good move. Direct d5. And takes here. Okay, Divya must take. She takes on d5. Time-wise, Divya playing well. 1 hour 15 minutes. But her position is really bad out of the opening. Queen takes d5. Eyeing the b7 pawn, the f7 pawn. Okay, knight e6 is forced. And now, how do you put a lot of pressure? Queen e5 makes sense, but she goes for a check. Maybe the best way was queen e5, castles, and bishop d5 with rook coming to e1 and c1. White has very good play. But check, queen d7. She takes it. And well, you generally take such pieces when you feel like you can convert something. Takes with the bishop, allowing bishop b7, but there's rook b8 and b2 hangs. So knight to e5, now attacking here. And bishop c8 played by Divya. Good move. She goes back. Rook c1. Zhu Jiner brings the rook to the open file, but c7 is off limits. Knight is there. And castles played. Rook fd1. Zhu Jiner making all the natural moves, but unfortunately, Divya is able to fight back. Bishop d5. Now imagine if you took here and played rook c7. There's bishop e6, solving all the problems. So bishop d5, king g7, and now g3 played. Pawn to a5. Maybe Divya wants to get her rook out from a6 to d6. b3 played. And king f6. We have f4, cementing the knight in the center. I still like Zhu Jiner's position. She can bring the king in slowly. And she's doubling down the d file, maybe on the c file. Both are possible. Rook b8 played. And now king f2. Slowly and steadily bringing the king in. We have bishop to d7 and rook d1 played. Doubling the rooks on the d file. Bishop e8. And knight to c4. Now attacking the pawn on a5, also looking at b6. We have a4. And b4 played. Gaining more space. Divya is getting more active. Knight c7, she attacks the bishop. The bishop drops back. And the point now is I want to take here and then take the pawn on b7. But Divya first captures on d2. Rook d2. And this does feel really nice for white once again. Knight to e6. And now knight b6. Just plonk the knight here. It's a great square. Yes. Eyeing the a4 pawn. Eyeing the c8 and d7 squares. Bishop to c6. And now you take on c6. She goes a3. h5. Pushing the pawn forward. Rook d3. And bishop to b5. The rook moves away. And Divya gets a rook into the game. She's down to 1 minute 51 seconds. They're on move 36. Zhu Jiner has 9 minutes 21 seconds. So Divya has to make 4 moves in 1 minute 50 seconds. She goes king f8. Taking 30 seconds on the clock. Rook to c3. 38th move. Knight to d4. And look at this move. Even with less time, Divya is so sharp. Bishop goes back because bishop takes b7. Maybe there's check and rook coming in. I don't know what she did not like, but rook e8 check. King f2. And Zhu Jiner has made it to move 40. Divya attacks the knight and knight takes a4. Bishop takes, rook jumps into e2. And even though the 40 moves are made, nothing much changes. Divya just gets 10 seconds per move. Boom, takes the h2 pawn. And in this endgame, white has an outside passer here. Black has an extra pawn on the king side. g3 is under pressure. Bishop goes to d7, hitting the knight. And now rook, oops, the rook falls and she presses the clock. Bishop b5, because if you take here, this is closer to a draw. b6, bishop c4, rook c2, bishop comes to b3. And now rook b2 played. a4. White is pushing the pawns down the board and h4, nice move. G takes, knight takes h4. Divya playing this really well. a5. And now takes, and you have to go rook b1, rook a1. That just makes sense. Yeah, check. King f2. The rook goes behind the pawn. Rook d5 defending, and now knight f5 coming back. So black is out of the woods now. Bishop c4. She goes rook a4. And the bishop comes here, because if you take on a5, maybe she wants to play check. Well, why did she have to give up that? Maybe the f4 pawn was under pressure. Rook b8, a huge mistake. So now rook a2 check is actually winning because of some checks here. Yeah, check. If king f3, knight d4 coming in, rook a3 check and knight d4. But king f3 played. She couldn't go back. Check. Good move. King f2 and now knight to d4. It's an important move, but she goes rook c3, giving Zhu Jiner a chance to come back. And Zhu Jiner must give either a check from b7 or e8. She gives a check from b7, king f8, rook d7. Check. King comes up, another check. Okay, they can repeat here, but maybe Divya is more ambitious now with an extra pawn. Yeah, for sure. Bishop goes back. Knight e7. She goes rook b7. And again, a big mistake. Knight d5 attacking this pawn. Should be very strong. Can Divya play it? Because knight d5 is f5. There's g5. Yeah, she plays it. f5 on the board. g5 also on the board. Bishop e4. The knight goes back to f6. Bishop goes back to b1. And Divya is bringing her pieces together. I love how she's playing this. King moves up, because if bishop a2 to attack f7, there was rook c2 check and you lose the bishop. So king comes up, rook c3 check. King goes back. There's no bishop a2. So knight to d5 now. Rook a7. I think what she's missed now is knight f4 check. The knight also enters in. Divya comes back to c7, and maybe this position take could be holdable, this endgame. But Zhu Jiner has a tough decision. She doesn't take it. She goes rook a6. And rook to e7 played. Okay, you have to be careful about f6 check threats. The rook comes in. And now king f3. It's so difficult to convert these positions with just one extra pawn. Bishop c2 was also difficult to play with the white pieces. And rook b7 attacking the bishop. Bishop comes up. And Divya gaining some 10 seconds with every move, hoping that she'll be able to manage the clock. Bishop d3, rook c3, king comes back, and now knight to d5, threatening a check here. Bishop b1 and rook to b3. If you give a check here, I have knight here. Oh, he goes wrong. Knight c3. Knight c3 is game over. Check. King no blunders. Rook b2. Oh my goodness. Divya wins. Wow, and look at the relief on her face. Insane finish there. I mean, definitely not king f2 here. She could have gone somewhere else. For example, king f1. But then after knight takes a2, rook takes a2 and rook f3, you do lose the f5 pawn. So it was not easy here. After rook b2, where to go? Almost all moves were in this position. Almost all moves were losing. You didn't have many opportunities. If king e1, again knight a2 takes and rook f3 followed by king f6 was winning. With this, Divya Deshmukh gets 3 points. And she's now on the top of the leaderboard of the Norway Chess 2026. Can she win this tournament? It will be the biggest achievement of her career, even I guess bigger than the FIDE World Cup in 25.